aquilo que eu e depois o pessoal, os professores da semana que vem, vão falar para vocês. Nós estamos em um laboratório de criogenia. Criogenia, na verdade, vai ser um laboratório de pesquisas em argônio líquido. Tá? Então, a gente está reformando ele, a gente vai começar as reformas do barracão, e a FAPESP está financiando esse projeto. Então, se vocês voltarem aqui hoje, eu espero que eu possa abrir o laboratório para vocês verem também. Tá bom? Então, não esqueçam, duas. E a lista de chamadas, vocês já assinaram?
Não.
Aqui.
Okay, so I'm going to have another short lecture about 20 minutes or so. This is extra, so it's apart the G4 analysis tools that are useful. This is more or less just to give you a reference of what you can do in GEANT4 when you become more used to use it. So that's some of these tools are really useful. Some other it's more advanced that I'm leaving only the slides for the future. So I'm not going in detail through them. So I was saying at the beginning of the day, GEANT4 did not provide any analysis tool. Now that the policy has changed a little bit, and GEANT4 is able to do something which is basic, so it's 1D histogram, 2D histograms, and n tuples. The nice thing is that you have the very same interface, and that you can choose at the end the output format that you want. So you just write the code, and in one line you change, and you can decide whether to have root format, as it is in the example. You can have XML or comma separated, so you can choose the output format only changing one line of code. And this is one of the examples in task 4. So the standard, as you saw, it's a root format that you can change, for instance, in comma separated by only one line of code. So if you have a look at the code, there is, by selecting one of those includes, you just select what's the output format of your simulation. So if you have include G4 root, you are going to generate a root file. If you say G4 XML, you are going to generate an XML, and so on. So you can have many formats by changing only one line of code. So this is a typical way to create histograms. So when do you want to create an histogram? Before running the first event. So it's at the begin of run action. So when you have a new run, the thing that you want to typically do is to create an histogram. So for instance, you create an histogram which is called H with a given title, and it has 100 bins between 0 and 800. So and those histograms are marked with an ID. So the first one is ID 1, and the second one is ID 2. And you say, okay, open my file, and that's it. So before running the event, so for instance, begin of run action, you create the histograms. So then you have to fill them. And this is typically done at the end of events. So when you run one event, you have the energy released in the detector, and you want to fill this number into the histogram. So you do just like fill H1, histogram number 1, and then the number which you want to fill. And then at the end of the run, you just close the file and save it. So again, this is more or less always copy and paste, and this is done in the tasks. So you can take some inspiration of how it is done in the tasks, so that if you want to add one extra histogram or so, you can do more or less by copy and paste of what is already done. So there are some facilities for histograms. You can do two-dimensional histograms. You can do log, linear scale, or not even bins. And something more that you can do with the GEANT4 tools is to create n tuples, that is tables. In a root jargon, it is a tree. So you can put numbers that are either integer or float or double. So and the strategy is the very same as for the histogram. So suppose that you want to define an n tuple. So I create a new n tuple which has a name and a title. So I want a column which is a double type, so it's a decimal value which is called EX. Then I want another column which is again a double, which is called EGET. And then, okay, I'm through with the n tuple. So I have created an n tuple which has only two columns, and there are two decimal numbers. Then I want to create another n tuple which has a different name and a different title, and that which will be number 2. And then I want only one column, which is integer type. So you can create columns either decimal or integer by choosing the letter here. It's I, which is integer, or D, which is double. So you can change the variable type by this. And again, you fill the very same way as before. So okay, you say fill the D-type column of n-tuple number 1, column 0, and this is the number that you want to send into the n-tuple. So n-tuple 1, column 1, and this is the number that you want to fit into. So that's it. So and then you send the row to the table. Okay, this is pretty much copy and paste, but it's a useful tool if you want to get n-tuples and not histograms, so that you can keep track of all the values of the variables without any binning, and then you can do the binning later to create the histogram. Yes?
You said that when we are dealing with a large amount of data, the ASCII file can be
not efficient.
Yes. So when we are using n-tuples, we choose comma-separated values.
It depends on how big the n-tuple it is. If it's 10,000 lines, it's still okay. So if you can use comma separated, maybe, and you can open with Excel or whichever other format. Then if you have 1 million lines or a few million lines, it's better to go in a binary format like root. So it's really dependent on your, if an ASCII file which is 2 gigabytes is not so good to be open and browse, so it does not make too much sense. So, but nothing prevents you to do that. In principle, it's just.
So root is a binary file.
Root is a binary file. You have to open with root program. So if you ever look at the virtual machine root, is installed there. So you have a working root installation, and you can use it to open the file which is generated by the simulation. So if you ever look, there is whenever you run the simulation, there is a file which is uc.root, which is created, which is a root file containing an histogram, and you can open it with root. So you can change the format by doing this game here. So you, instead of G4 root, you put G4 XML, and you will get another kind of file in which it's human readable, so you can read it by opening with a browser or so. So something which is new in GEANT4 now, it's 10.2. It's the so-called G4 parameters, which is good. It's not very useful in the sequential style that you are using, but it's very convenient in the multi-thread style, because at the end of the day you want to get a result from many different cores together, all together into you want to merge the results coming from the different cores. And this is a tool to merge the results coming from many different cores. So each core, it has a run action individually. So this is the way to merge the results at the end. So this is not affecting your specific virtual machine, because GEANT4 is compiled in sequential mode. So the simulation will not be split on many cores. It will stay on one core only. But when you get more familiar with GEANT4 and you want to try the multi-thread mode, you have to be sure that several threads are not going to write on the same file at the same time, because otherwise you get some interference between the threads. So GEANT4 is providing a few tools in order to make sure that many cores are not writing the same output file at the same time. So I'm linking this as a reference for the future. And this is also I'm mentioning just for reference. So suppose that you have to do something which is not within the GEANT4 standard scorers. So you have a more complicated setup, I don't know. You have a neutron beam going into one detector. You have two detectors, detector 1 and detector 2, and you want to have a neutron beam, and you want to calculate the time of flight between the two detectors. So how long this neutron takes to scatter from here to here. So this is not something that GEANT4 has ready for the use. So these things of sensitivities is a special case which you have to take care by yourself. So you don't can use the G4, you cannot use the G4 multifunctional detector, but you have to write your own sensitivity. So you have to define that what matters to you is the time difference between these two detectors. So this is a much more general case. So in this case, you have to write your sensitive detector class, which inherits from the G4V sensitive detector, and you have to write the heat class, which inherits from G4V heat. The heat class is a kind of container. So every time you get into this volume, which is the information which is interesting for you? In some cases, it's position or coordinates or energy. In some other cases, it's, I don't know, z coordinate or time. So it's up to you to decide which is the variable that you care about. So, and the heat class is a kind of container in which you decide what are the information that you want to keep, and then it's filled by the sensitive detector. So you may have also different kinds of sensitivity. So for one detector you care about x, y, time, and energy. For another kind of detector you care about different quantities. So you may have different types of sensitivity within the same setup if you have different kinds of detectors. So I'm swapping pretty fast because I don't want to confuse too much with this thing. So I'm just flashing, but what you really have to do is that every time you are in one of those detectors that are marked as sensitive, you save information in this kind of container, and then you keep this block in the memory. So GEANT4 will create something like that. So for each time that you get into the detector, you fill one container and you keep it into memory. And again, you have to read out this memory before the next event, otherwise all these things is gone. So you save some information while you are tracking, and GEANT4 makes available at the end of the event. Then it's up to you to decide what to do with this information, whether to read it or to trash it. GEANT4 will not keep anything for you unless you explicitly do and read it out at the end of the event. So this is called an heat collection. So it's a vector of those containers that are created within the stepping. And at the end of the day, what you have to do is to read it at the end of the event. So this is more or less always copy and paste. So you just retrieve the heat collection, which is again by a name, and you just read those containers one by one. This is the most general thing that you can do in GEANT4. So it's a bit more advanced than than the rest of what I presented in this course. So just forget it for this moment. I leave it in the slides so that you can have a look if you are more interested, but it's not meant to be a part of this course. So the tasks, the exercises that you have, they do not contain this. So it's just for your information. If you're more interested or you have something more, if your simulation is something which does not fit the automatic ways of GEANT4. So I also uploaded the task 4. So there are two tasks. The first one deals about stacking action. So you see that you have a cesium source which emits neutrinos. You have the gamma, you have the beta, and you have the neutrino. So the neutrino is just a waste of time from the point of view of simulation. The neutrino will not give an interaction. So you just kill the neutrinos when they are created. So this is one thing that you can do in the stacking action. And the other exercise is about the GEANT4 scorers. So to add some more, I think now there is only the energy that you save on the detector, to add some more information which is saved from this detector, which is the flux. So the task will be A and B. One part is stacking action, so to kill some kind of secondary particles that you don't care about. And the second half is about retrieving some information which you can do by the GEANT4 ready for the use tools. So to use those tools to retrieve the flux instead of the energy, or retrieve both. So here there is the link. This is the end, let's say, of the lectures of this course. So feel free to mail me if you have further questions. I will be leaving tomorrow, but if in the next days or weeks you want to play with the virtual machine and with the tasks, they will stay online for weeks. So I'm not going to delete the web page or whatever. So you can play with this for a long while, and if you have specific questions, you feel free to email me. Good luck for the exercises. I cut it very short because it's more advanced and just leaving for reference.